mentors always told me, chunk it down, bring it back to the people, bring it back to the individual, bring it back to uh, what people can do for themselves. And so, and I studied natural law, the Kabbalion Hermetic Code, and I realized that there's 7 immutable laws, and as above, so below is the natural law of correspondence. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we are not healthy ourselves? And I realized a lot coming out of the Amazon and having um, um, environmental sensibilities, if you will, because environmentalism and leftism and all these things have gotten more misconstrued as time has gone on. But going to these protests, I wouldn't see that they were holistic. I would see that the do-gooders would be protesting against these oil companies, and I'd be right there with them. And I'd be talking about a for-profit herbal company that we were working with, and there was all this infighting. And I was like, why is this so the divide and conquer? Like, what is that all about? And at the same time, the protesters, me included, would be protesting the oil companies. We all had to pump gasoline into our vehicle to get there. And so I'm like, wow, I mean, we are the problem. Therefore, we are the solution. I also saw in the Amazon that oil exploration was the #1 deforestation component. And so, and then of course lumber, and we all live in wood houses, and they sell the wood down at Home Depot and stuff. And so we are the problem, therefore we are the solution. But where do we start? Because the herbal company I was working with, you can't compete with lumber interests. You can't compete with oil interests. You can't compete with the end result, which are cash crops. I actually moved recently. I live right in front of a Burger King. And let me tell you, things have not slowed down. As far as fast food goes, even though people should be paying attention to their health if they don't want to be, what do they call that? Comorbidity, potential symptomatic of the COVID virus. And so, so there wasn't a lot of reflection on personal responsibility. It was always like, oh, they have to stop cutting the rainforest down. They over them over there. And I learned a long time ago when we're pointing the finger at someone else, we got 3 pointing back at us, and one at God. And so it's always a good time to look in that mirror. And so I I came out of the jungle in 2006. I had 3 very profound visions. One was an amalgamation of my on-camera career. I'd been a Versace model since 1989. I started studying juicing and internal purification then. So it was an amalgamation of my on-camera career, natural medicine studies, and at the time I was doing stand-up comedy on the Sunset Strip at the Comedy Store. And an amalgamation of that all fell into my head, and the certified health nut was born right there in the middle of the Amazon in an ayahuasca ceremony. And I laughed out loud, and I came out of the jungle, and I had some new digital footage. This is before iPhones, and I wanted to put it up on the internet. It's before Facebook, but YouTube was a brand new reality. And I noticed that a lot of the health people were really just talking heads. A lot of them were talking about diet paradigms. And as we all know, that not all diets work for all people. One man's food is another man's poison. And so, so it was kind of that, and a little bit of personal trainers on steroids. And like, there was nothing in between. And I was like, okay. So that was a little strange for me. And I had my son in natural childbirth the year after. So between natural childbirth and then having on the ground footage from the Amazon rainforest, I was able to build a niche for myself. But what I realized was like, oh my God, I've got the power of the internet. I've got a platform. You know, I moved to LA to build an acting career, and you know, you had to beg people for a piece of film before the digital age just to show them your work. And then lo and behold, now I've got a platform. I can share the world. I can save the rainforest all by myself. And lo and behold, nobody gave a shit. you know? And so, and not that they didn't really give a shit, but they didn't, maybe they might have cared, but they don't really have the capacity because we're so busy chasing that illusionary paper. And then, of course, in 2008, the crash came. Bush gave $1 trillion of paper into the Fed. Most people don't realize how much paper was in the Fed. 660 billion in the history of the Fed before 2007. And so all of a sudden you get $1 trillion injected, then another trillion with Obama. And then I started seeing no difference between the Bush family and the Obama situation. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. So all this is helping me reconfigure it because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to save the planet, right? My mentors told me you can't do that, and you got to chunk it down. And I was just like, what do you mean I can't do that? I could do anything I want. And so I think it really just comes. It's a game of mental gymnastics and semantics, really. Um, so I've realized over the years, my mission is to raise human consciousness and change all systems. My vision is clean air, water, soil, and equitable systems for all mankind. So the two other visions that I saw in the Amazon in 2006 was one, the spirit of my daughter came to me, and she was my second child, and I wasn't married at the time. So I came home to Los Angeles and interviewed some of the girls I was interested in. Most of them were like, a lot of actresses here, kind of on the career path, and they weren't interested in that. And so my family's been unfolding, certified health nut's been unfolding. And the third vision that I saw is that humanity makes it. And I studied, before I went to the Amazon, I studied Mayan temples, and I went down there and traveled there extensively. Of course, when I went to Peru, I went to the Incan temples. And I saw that there was a power that built these temples that we had that we don't have access to, technology we don't have access to on this planet. So I started thinking, okay, so if these pyramids were built and these stone temples were built, then obviously the consciousness exists, right? And anything the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, no different from the Wright brothers wanting to fly like an eagle. So I started to call forth real brass tack solutions, because again, working in with the protests, the people were protesting what was happening in the Amazon, there wasn't solutions. It was all blaming and kind of pointing the finger as we're all using oil. So I've come to the summation that the two big things that are required to transform is a world beyond money and a world beyond oil. Uh, the petrodollar is pegged to oil. And so these are the two main things that are holding humanity back. Um, and my lectures over the last 15 years, I've talked extensively about that, and people question me, and I say, "Oh, this will never happen." It's almost like Stockholm syndrome, where people are speaking into existence that which they wish they don't want to see. Right? Oh, that'll never happen. That'll never happen in my lifetime. The thing is we don't have a lot of time. We need a quantum leap. I've been calling for a quantum leap. Oh, Troy, how's that going to happen? Oh, that's impossible. Well, I've been calling for that for years. We moved through 2012. Everybody said, "Oh, the Mayan calendar didn't happen," but I had studied enough with the Mayan elders to know that 2012 was just the portal that we were going through. And so, and I could taste the quantum leap. I could feel it. It was palatable. It was palpable. It was, I was just like, when is it going to happen? And lo and behold, 2020 started coming around the corner, and I go, oh, okay. All right, yeah, okay, yeah, this is it. This is it. 2020, the year of inner vision, right? Clear vision. And still, there's little doubting Thomas in the back of my head. Okay, so, what is that? Are you sure, Troy? I did a workshop in Scottsdale, Arizona on January, I think 22nd or 23rd. It feels like years ago, literally years ago. January came and went, February came and went, and then all of a sudden you started hearing this thing about the coronavirus, and bam, I think it was almost in the first week of March, and then it set in, and the whole world changed dramatically to the point where 1 to 2 weeks into it, we've got clear skies in Los Angeles. And I've been here almost 25 years. I've never seen it or felt it like that. How about the octave? And this is also what I've been talking about. How? How is this going to happen, Troy? You see the frequencies behind me. This is my book cover that I designed. There's going to be an octave shift, a frequency shift, whether that's neutrinos from the central sun or whatever little spiritual woo-woo story I've heard over the years. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but clearly it is happening because the frenetic energy that was here in Los Angeles, and we're talking high level buzz, it takes a certain energy to be able to live in Los Angeles. And I must live um, closest to the ocean where that frenetic energy is less. But let me tell you, in a span of a couple of weeks, and now we're a good month and a half, 6 weeks into it, we are living in a different world. And the environment has changed so much. The energetics have changed so much. And then now what's happening to oil? I just heard that oil they're going to start paying people to store it. They're basically going to pay people to have oil. We went from oil being so high priced, and now I saw yesterday it was $2.99 a gallon here in California. I think it was riding up around $5 a gallon. It hasn't been that way in 10 years. So that's shifting. That's connected to the stock exchange, which is connected also to the Federal Reserve fake currency notes, the fiat debt slave system. And then lo and behold, something's happening inside the government as well, where Trump is the first guy since JFK to question the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve, if you guys have not followed along, is no different from the Federal Express. It's a privately owned corporation, has nothing to do with the government. And so this has been going on for a very long time, since the 1917, I do believe, it was implemented. So there's been a whole bunch of shadow strangleholds that have been keeping everything in place. Who's also, paying these politicians? I've done my protests for GMOs. I've spoke at the federal building, against these oil wars, these proxy wars. Nobody listened. Nothing changed. But now the octave and the frequency has changed, and somehow the veil of illusion's been shifted. I just heard that the Treasury has taken the Federal Reserve underneath them. So they're going to make a move to get rid of the central banks. And this is at the cornerstone of freeing humanity. No one's free until we're all free. And that debt slave system and that fake fiat currency system without a gold backing, as JFK was on about, and they murdered him. So I do believe the world is going through a big shift. We're not there yet. But here's the thing, with all the ideas around 5G and coronavirus, and is it China, and is it the Illuminati, and Bill Gates, and vaccinations, and I mean the soup of like morass that we're all swimming in as we're trying to figure it out. But here's the thing, let all that stuff go, because as the Wright brothers proved, if you want to fly like an eagle, you can. You just have to focus your mind. So I'm here to call forth peace on earth. That's what's in my heart. And I know that the way to do that is to work on myself first and foremost. That's the only thing we can do. Ultimately, there is only one here. So I must work on my own heart. I must work to raise my frequency and vibration um, consistently on a daily basis, not only with the nutrition that you take in, but also that comes down to the air, that comes down to the water, that comes down to the frequency and vibrations of the relationships that you have. And so as I continue to change myself, I learned how to pray when I went through my divorce, and I subsequently remarried my ex-wife. I was able to pull a rabbit out of a hat, put the family back together. We actually moved into a very beautiful 3-bedroom home just before all this went down. And so that was pretty magical as well. We lived in my divorce apartment, a single 1-bedroom apartment with 4 people in it. And so I said, if we can live here, we can live anywhere. We moved into here like 2 days before the lockdown went. went into play. And so I must raise that frequency and vibration within inside of me, and I must continue to do my healing work. What I've realized in relationship is a sacred mirror, a sacred mirror to the old shadow. And so, and if you get a committed partner, you know, you get to work through that. That's the gift of relationship. And so, so that's where I'm at right now, and that's what I'm calling forth. I'm calling forth peace on earth. You know, fuck Bill Gates. He's gonna do him. I'm gonna do me. And I don't like vaccinations, but I've learned a long time ago, fighting oil companies. Hey, I'm pumping gasoline into my car, right? So I'm just fighting myself. So let me call forth another solution. I'm not using oil right now, and I live in LA. I've actually had a bicycle, I think, 3 or 4 years straight, like bike only, in the city of Los Angeles. I did that for many years, but at least 3 or 4 years straight, you know, bike only. So I like to put my money where my mouth is and test my own theories, and call forth that peace on earth. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.